Hello and welcome back to Premier Injuries. It is the all-important deadline day. It is Friday, the kickoff of blank Euro 2020. We've been building up to this for weeks now with lots of fantastic videos. I hope you've been paying attention to the channel. Through Groups A to F, the group of death, we have given you guides, and we've also released the big data packs today on the Premier Injuries website. Throughout the whole of the tournament, there's going to be injury updates as well. We're going to be doing videos to keep you as up to date as possible. But God, I'm so excited for this. This is a team reveal, and this is the God's honest truth. I haven't seen Ben's team. He's not seen mine. We've actually got the emails loaded up, and this is going to be the first time that I've seen it live on air. So this could be outrageously differential. It could be the absolute template. I don't know. But before we get into it, I do want to remind people, do get involved because we've got 2 tickets to give away on this final video. So get involved with the comments. It's going to be quick. We're going to get it done by about lunchtime, so make sure to get your entries in. It's easy as 1, 2, 3, easiest groups A, B and C. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, like, share, comment on the video, just get involved. We want to have as much involvement as possible because we want to help you through the tournament. Number 2 is sign up to FanTeam using our special link. That helps us out a lot. And then number 3, send us your FanTeam IDs so we know which team we are going to credit. But yes, Ben, how excited are you for this big reveal today?
Very excited. I must admit, my enthusiasm for the tournament has grown since we started doing these. We've considered from where I was at the very beginning, you know, that very first podcast, looking at players, discussing teams, tactics, analysis. My views and my thoughts have swayed from one way to the other. I've been sweet on players. I've went cold on others. I've went full circle on 1 or 2, and I've even brought in players that I never would have entertained without some of your fantastic insight and statistics to back them up. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know what, I think you will be surprised by 1 or 2 players that I've shoehorned into my squad. I dare say, I'm looking at my team now, I'm thinking we might have 1 or 2, you know, the same. But as you know, with me, differential dinnery, you know, I do like to go anti-template whenever possible. I do like that differential. It's just the thrill of the ride, the thrill of the unknown. And so, yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to seeing, you know, what you've got to offer. And I'm sure, you know, we'll have our usual little side bet and see who's going to top between, you know, out the 2 of us. Hopefully we're both finishing the cash though.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if you came top with that 200k, I came 100k. I'd be able to live with that. But yeah, I suppose we teased it enough. Let's get into it. Who do you want to start with? Do you want to start with me or with yourself, Big Ben?
Look, I would say it's got to be age before beauty.
Okay.
Look, the floor is yours, my friend.
I suppose we go Monopoly rules, isn't it? The youngest goes first, but it's only a few years between us, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people mistake me for your slightly younger brother, don't they? And I'm going to be practicing my Geordie through the tournament, so when we get to the Premier League stuff, people go, "Oh, why, hey man, that is a proper Geordie lad." So let's get into it. Starting with defence, we'll go with my defence first. I've got Donnarumma between the sticks, Alaba, Spinazzola, and Munir. So big starter there. I haven't put too much money in my defence. I think like that kind of level of price for, you know, the likes of Munir, Spinazzola, that's probably as high as I want because I think there's going to be a lot of goals this tournament. And I think that kind of gives people an idea of how much I'm going to invest in my front line as well. But yeah, starting off with my team, we're almost doing a rate my team on this. Do you like my back line of Donnarumma, Alaba, Spinazzola, Munir?
Look, it's going to be very, very hard to disagree with those picks, because I've actually submitted 2 teams as it currently stands. Those that may have caught the video on who scored will see that this team tonight is slightly different. I've went for a slightly different philosophy, but there are there are a lot of commonalities between the two. Your goalkeeper, doubling up on the Italian defence. I think we're talking 8 clean sheets now. So the last time they conceded a goal, they're coming into the tournament in a rich vein of form. You've eulogised and you've talked about how Roberto Mancini, is really setting his stall out to attack this tournament. And for me, I've actually flagged the Italians as being, they're my dark horse. So I really like the double up. I think that's that's a really solid foundation to go on. Mounier, he was in my who scored team as well. You look at that group in itself, and you could easily see Belgium walking away with 3 clean sheets in that. And you have your wild card at the end of those group stages. So to lock him in there. And Alaba, look, everybody loves an out of position player within fantasy. And we know that he plays in that advanced role for Austria compared to where he plays domestically. So he's going to be a very popular pick. And I think Austria have almost flown under the radar a little bit. Quite impressed against England in the recent game. The one concern that I did have initially about Austria was I look back to those World Cup qualifiers, and I seen that game against Denmark when they suffered a really heavy 4-0 loss to the Danes. And that just sort of planted a seed of doubt, which is maybe why I maybe dismissed them initially. But again, I have warmed to Austria. But I like the 3 at the back. First and foremost, FanTeam, weight their scoring matrix for those higher up the pitch. So I think it makes sense not to spend too much on that back line. And look, as much as I would like to pull it apart and have something nasty to say, no, look, it all looks good. It's pretty solid. You cannot really you cannot knock any of those picks.
So let's go into the back line of your team, Ben. I'm so excited to see who is going to be in there.
Right. So, well, we've lined up with the same goalkeeper, and I did that on the other team as well.
Nice.
And I did consider the Italian double up, but it was that part of me that just needs to be a little bit differential. And I thought, well, I can't be without Italy, completely. So Donnarumma for me got the nod, and I like that. And I know, people are talking about there's a lot of budget option keepers available, but I had a little bit of cash left, so I thought I'd go Donnarumma. This was a player you flagged up in the first podcast, and that was Rodriguez from Switzerland. And the reason I like him, one, we've got a defender who is on penalties first and foremost, and we're also talking about with the new scoring matrix with FanTeam and players being rewarded for shots on target. And I think you quoted around about maybe 2.7 to 2.79-ish shots per 90 for Rodriguez in international football. And they're worth 0.6 points under the new scoring matrix with FanTeam. So that to me appealed, certainly for that opening game anyway against Wales. I think the group will be very tight. I don't see a lot of goals in this group. I can see maybe a couple of teams maybe edging 1-0s. But, Wales for me in that first game, they need to be targeted. No disrespect, but I think they will really struggle this year. There will be a lot of emphasis on your Gareth Bales and your Aaron Ramsey. But unfortunately, they're just not the players that they once were. Struggle for form, fitness, and yeah, I mean, they may surprise us. I know they've got that ability to turn it on, that little bit of class. But for me, I do like the look of Rodriguez and Switzerland. In the centre, I've went, and I was surprised with myself for this one, and I've went with, one of your favourite, John Stones.
Yeah.
I did have a little bit of cash left, so like I say, and 6 million for a defender is a little bit more than I wanted to spend, but he is one of the cheapest defenders in that England backline who is more or less nailed down as a starter. And again, pretty much like what I said about Mounier, I can see England again. If they're on the metal, they could easily come away with at least 2 clean sheets from that group. Factor in that John Stones is coming off the back of a good season. I think he's really played himself back in. Most Premier League minutes this campaign since he first signed for Manchester City, and amongst that got himself some important goals. Pops up there. He's got 2 goals for England. Incidentally, that came in the last tournament in Russia against Panama in a 6-1 victory. So I'm hoping that maybe John Stones is just a big-time tournament player, and as well as a clean sheet possibility, we may get a goal or 2 from John Stones. So that's why I went with him. And the final pick, and we talked about how we warm to teams, and I had initially dismissed Germany from everything. I just didn't fancy them. There was a lot of talk. I know it's Joachim Löw's swan song. He will leave the German national team after this tournament, and I just wasn't sold. But then I looked at the squad individually, and I do, as individuals, I really do like them. I know there's question marks over that back line. It's just not as stable as it once was. Rudiger has always got a mistake in him. But I went with Goossens, and that was, based on, I don't know, I've just got a sneaky suspicion that maybe Germany might just come through. It's a horrendous group. It is. So I know I'm taking a little bit of a chance there. But I threw him in, and yeah, look, that's probably one of those differentials that I like just to appease that risky nature of me character. So I'm sure you might have 1 or 2 things to say about that.
I mean, obviously, I'm going to agree with you on Donnarumma. That would be crazy if I said, oh, no, I don't like Donnarumma and he's in my 11. That would be outrageous. I like Rodriguez, and a lot of what you've said I agree with. And this is the wonderful thing about FanTeam, as well as I might create another team with him in. But the team that I'm obviously presenting tonight is the one I'm most secure in returning kind of output, like at the top level. So yeah, I think Rodriguez is a great pick. In terms of that group, it's going to be tight for sure. There'll be not many goals, something that I agree with you with. So I think he's got that fair ability to have clean sheets, and somebody that takes that many shots is so enticing. 0.6 in terms of every single one. So he could really pick up quite a fair few points on set pieces, on penalties. There's not a lot to dislike about the Rodriguez pick, especially at his price point. Honstones, as I like to call him, my Pep Guardiola impression. Yeah, he was really difficult for me to leave out of my side. I think a little bit was the price point. I thought he was a little bit too expensive for the kind of style that I was going for. But he's so good. And again, in another one of my FanTeam drafts, he might be in there because I think he could score a header or 2 in this opening Group D, because the teams that they're playing against do struggle. So I really like that pick. My only one that I'm going to be a little bit critical of, and I think you can see it yourself, is the German pick. I don't see... France, Portugal are so much better than that side. I wouldn't be happy playing them in most of those games. So that's just my only negative kind of mindset. But I guess we'll get onto your bench as well, because I'm sure you'll have somebody to bring in those more difficult games. But my final question to you on that back line is Gosens going to start that first game for you? or is
Um,
this kind of a preliminary squad that you're going to factor in
yeah, I
games?
mean, yeah, I certainly wouldn't be looking to maybe deploy him against France. It's going to be difficult, especially not with Was and maybe on the bench for Denmark, and they've got Finland and even Alaba as well. So we picked the same one there. So I've certainly got some flexibility. The Goosens, look, I'll be happy if he can just target that Hungary game. I think that's how I see that group panning out. It's going to be the three big teams, the big boys getting it on, and then everybody just looking to smash Hungary all over the place. So maybe he's just deployed for that one game, and then we'll see what happens after that point.
Yeah, well, I wish you luck with that back line, and I like 75% of it. But let's move on to the midfield of my team. And I don't think many people will be surprised with my picks because I've waxed lyrical by a lot of these players through the week. The only one that might dip it out of my side is Depay. I'm considering Wijnaldum possibly, and then I might bump up somebody on my bench. But the fact that he's on so much for that team, he's the central point, is the kind of point that I made, that I don't like having a facilitator or somebody, an involved transfer where I'm buying somebody because they might be involved with a goal involvement. Some people said that with Bobby Firmino and Mo Salah, and I just don't see it. You might as well just go to the point where the goals are. The only reason why I'd consider Wijnaldum possibly over Depay is that little bit of saving I can put elsewhere in my squad, but he's just as involved with the goals, so I don't think it's kind of he'll be involved with Depay assisting him, whatever. He scores those goals by himself. But anyway, Depay, I'm quite confident that he'll score goals in this group, whereas elsewhere on the pitch for the Netherlands, I'm not too sure about, and I'm quite worried for them. I think we both agreed that they could be a flop of this tournament. But Ferran Torres, I'm so excited to see how he does in the Spain squad. Really looking forward to him. Bernardo Silva, I think kind of my mentality on this was, I think Portugal can do well against Hungary. Then they play Germany, who I think that they could thrash, and Bernardo Silva can be involved in that. And then I'm not kind of planning the transfer. I don't like to do that, but the point is that by that game week I can think, right, have Portugal been in good form, and it allows me that kind of transfer there. I can bump him up to somebody else or go to somebody else. And Eriksen, I think we've talked about so much. He's at the part of this Denmark team that he's so good. Yeah, I think he's so well priced. He's got a fantastic opportunity to go large with his team here. So yeah, what are your thoughts and feelings on my midfields, Ben?
Again, look, I'll not try to reveal too much from tonight's team, but my who scored, I had Silva, Eriksen, and Torres all in my my number one team. Torres was based purely on the fact you convinced me about Torres. He's not somebody that I'd give any serious consideration to. And I put that out to the guys on the other podcast. One of their concerns is he's maybe a little bit too premium in terms of his price for a player who's maybe he's not on penalties. And, yes, his domestic form's great, but, can he make that step up? And can he be the star man for Spain? And, will this tournament maybe just come a little bit too soon for him? But, based on all of the data, the stats, and you sold it to me, throughout the course of these podcasts, I was happy to take a punt on him. Bernardo Silva as well. I've eulogized over him. You're talking about his XG, his XA, his touches in the opposition penalty area, progressive passes. He's in and around that sort of 95th to 99th percentile across the top 5 European leagues. So there's a lot to like. But when we talk about my team tonight, I'll explain, why he may or may not be in. Eriksen is the Danish talisman. And again, I had overlooked Denmark until I just, sat down and drilled down into recent results and how they played And, he is, you talk about a talisman for a team. He is that guy. He is the one that will drag Denmark up when they're down, and he will carry them forward. So he's a great pick as well. And Memphis Depay, listen, he's going to get rewarded for his shots in FanTeam. I'm casting my mind back. I think we said it was obviously Ronaldo has had the most shots in European football this season, and I think Depay is just second on that list. So we know he loves a pop-it goal. He's been in absolutely superb form. The data will back all of that up. The only thing is, it's Holland, and maybe they could bomb. And secondly was just the fact that I expect him to be so highly owned. It's what put him off. But really, in terms of just looking at those players in isolation, domestic form, great. Me one slight concern, although, you sold it very, very well, and I took the punt myself, was the Torres pick, because again, we're talking about uncertainty as well, just around the COVID affecting the squad. Luis Enrique has called up an additional 17 players to train alongside in what he called a parallel bubble. And, if that virus was to rip through the squad, preparations being disrupted, then maybe that could have some kind of knock-on effect as well. But, on the whole, there's a lot to like there. Very attacking.
Yeah, I mean, I am keeping my eye on that situation actually with the COVID-19. It's not an outbreak yet, but with the two players that have been affected on it, that was a big concern. And so if more do get infected, then I would move to another asset. But yeah, it's quite fun that we've got a bit of an agreement there. But yeah, let's move on to your midfield here, and kind of looking at it coming up on screen here. There's a couple in there that are really kind of differential. I can see you licking your lips because you're like, yes, I love the differential dinnery coming out. And some of them are obviously ones that we talked about as being really good picks. So yeah, just talk us through your thoughts and feelings and why you picked these ones.
So I'll bring the first one up, and it's Bruno Fernandes. And this is a player I've went against all instinct. I've went against my own advice. And partly because Bernardo is in one team. But then, when I said, and during the podcast, don't read too much into these non-competitive games, these friendlies. And then, Portugal do a little bit of a job on Israel. Bruno pops up. He's on penalties. And I just thought, you know what? Let's just take a little bit of a punt on Bruno. I will submit another team, and my third team will probably have Bernardo in. So I'll go 2 teams with Bernardo, 1 with Bruno, and that way I'm covering bases. I do expect Portugal to do well in this group and in this tournament. And look, if we see anything like the Bruno that we see for Manchester United, look, he'll be hitting double figures. The master of the no-touch assist. It's just for that alone, for that potential, points value, then he's worth a punt. Eriksen, I echo your thoughts there. So really like him. Insigne from Italy. Again, he's another one that loves a pop in on goal.
Yeah.
The only concern really is ownership. I expect all of these Italian players to be flying.
Yeah,
I've got him on the bench in the other team, but I've decided to put him in my starting 11 here. And look, if Italy are playing anything like they have done, in the build up to this tournament, then they will go really deep. And Insigne is one of those players who I expect to have a really good tournament as well. And finally, Forsberg. And now this is a very differential punt. Concerns in the Swedish camp as well about COVID. So I am watching this, but the Swedish coach has actually come out in the press, and it's not often you hear national team managers or any manager for that case talking about players, but he's turned around and he said, look, This guy is going to be on everything. He's going to be set pieces, corners, spot kicks, probably goal kicks. I think he's giving out the teas at half time, the oranges. he's going to be doing everything. So he is the guy that if Sweden get anything anywhere on the pitch, he is the guy that's going to be lining up and taking a punt. And just for that, and at his price point, I just think it's worth. It's a tight group. They could do okay. So I thought it was just worth a punt on goal with him, just for that alone. And again, he ticks boxes for me with him being a bit of a differential. Elsewhere, on the bench, I've went with Olmo from the Spain squad, and that was probably based on the fact again that I went with Ferran Torres and the other team. So I've went with Olmo here, but I know again, you've talked about it, and it was probably a pretty close call for you in terms of who to go for, Torres, Olmo, and that may come down to what sort of budget you have remaining, and he is slightly cheaper. So he's on my bench, and I will maybe look to rotate around fixtures accordingly.
Just a quick question before I give my opinions on the midfield, but do you have money left in the bank then so that you can work your way through the tournament in this group stage?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was at least 3 to 4 million, maybe 4.5 million there in the bank. So yeah, there's plenty, but you will see maybe when we go up front as to why I maybe have that money in the bank.
Yeah, no. The thing is, it's really interesting, and what I love about this revelation is almost a kind of opposite ways that we're approaching this. I've kind of gone with maybe a bit templatey, maybe a bit too boring, but quite a few of the popular picks and maybe a couple of differentials in there. But then the other thing is I've used every penny on my starting 11, whereas you've spread your money a little bit more around the pitch, which is really fascinating because both ways can garner you really good results, and it's just interesting to see it. In terms of the midfield, I like Insigne. I think he's got so much potential. Really good kind of competent shot taker as well in the top 17%, I think, in terms of XG per 90 of midfielders. Eriksen, we don't need to talk about him. He's just the talisman effect. So yeah, Fernandes, I think, for me personally, and this isn't to attack you, Ben, but I do think some people have got excited seeing how he did against Israel. And I think that looking at the data of how he's played for Portugal just makes me a little bit concerned about will he play in that more advanced role, because Israel's Israel, but when they're playing against France, Germany, and to a lesser extent Hungary, they'll probably go back to their more defensive style. And so I worry that Fernandes might not get those opportunities that he did against Israel. But the flip side is maybe in that Hungary game, that starting one, Israel and Hungary, Portugal might treat them the same. They might have tried those tactics because they want to go out there and score 4 or 5 goals just to get up there. So that could really work out for you in that sense. And I wish, I always wish you the best in terms of that. The Forsberg pick, though, I think is inspired. When you think about Sweden, Spain, the problems that Spain have as well in terms of the COVID situation, but also the fact that I talked about how Spain really struggle against, physical, low block defensive sides that then kind of break and have those long balls up to the front. This could be a great opportunity for Forsberg. He might be one of those players on the break, but also if somebody is brought down because of a tactical foul by Spain because they just don't know how to handle Sweden's attack, Forsberg could be taking that dead ball situation, float the ball in. They're very aerially good in kind of attacking the ball, and that could be an assist for him. So, yeah, I think you might have thought I'd be more critical of that one, but actually, I think it's quite a clever way of the situation. We'll get on to your subs in a minute or so. So, yeah, let's go on to my attack and your attack first. Now, looking on the screen here, you can see that I've gone all guns blazing in the attack once again. Lukaku, Kane, Lewandowski. I don't think we really need to explain too much why we picked them, apart from I'll explain why I chose those three instead of Ronaldo as well. Now, I do have to give credit to you where it is absolutely due. We were chatting the other night in terms of rate my team, and I said that I was thinking of having Silva and Ronaldo, and that I'd get Ronaldo out maybe after the Hungary game, maybe after the Germany game. And you brought, maybe a hint of my own hypocrisy of saying, I don't like to plan transfers, I don't like to do this, I don't like to put this pressure on myself. And then I was saying, well, I'll probably get Ronaldo out after the first game. And that's not the right way to do it. Lewandowski, I think he could score in all his games, whereas Ronaldo, I just had a little bit of a worry about the France game. Lesser extent, Germany, he could do all right there. But yeah, it just kind of seemed to go against my own advice, and you're right to highlight it. So I switched the team up. I actually saved a little bit of money, which I could then put in other players in the squad. And so I settled with that front three. At the moment, though, I think people find it interesting that I haven't captained Sir Harold Kane. I have actually captained Lewandowski for that game against Slovakia, which I'm in two minds about. I think the captaincy is probably between Lukaku, Lewandowski and Kane. I've gone with Lewandowski just because of his mammoth goal-scoring form, but I might go with the more safer approach of Lukaku, because I think everybody and their mother is kind of captaining and got Lukaku in their team. So really, I think almost the differential is not captaining Lukaku, and that could leave you severely behind, or it could just keep you up with the rest of the group. And I'm not too sure if I want to play that safe, or if I really want to go almost out on a differential with Lewandowski, who I'm not sure if many people will captain him. I think a lot of people have him in their team. But yeah, Ben, have I gone too big up front? Do I need to spread that money elsewhere like yourself, or do you like this treble up in the forward line?
The only surprise for me was not seeing Ronaldo in there, if the truth be known. Look, I expected to see Lukaku, and I firmly expected to see Kane. So the Lewandowski nod over Ronaldo did take me back a little bit.
I'll tell you what, it was because of that terrible free kick that Ronaldo took against Israel. That was the settling figure for me.
Yeah. Look, like you say, I think this is, we talk about making hay while the sun shines during these group stages. Anybody without Harry Kane in their side for this group stages, or Lukaku for that matter, because both teams should bang, are taking a huge risk. And it's a master stroke and you get lucky and somebody else shines, or you could be out of the running for the big prize if either of those bang and you haven't got them, especially if and there's going to be lots and lots of people captaining them. I actually had since day one, and I think this is probably my 12th or 13th podcast now, Euro related. I've had Harry Kane as my highest point scorer, and I've had Lukaku, Belgium as the tournament winners, as the players who will shine. So, and yeah, look, Lewandowski is at 41 goals and 40 appearances this season. The one concern that I did have about Lewandowski was, and this came back from even just feedback on one of our YouTube videos. So one of the, I don't recall the guy's name, but he offered a quite a thorough and comprehensive, update. A Polish guy, and he just talked about how the new managers came in. He's still looking to find a settled team, a settled formation, and Lewandowski is a little bit maybe isolated up there, up front. Now, when I took this to the guys at Who Scored, we had a bit of a chat, and they were seeing of the opinion, well, actually, they changed the manager because of the fact that Lewandowski was all up, he was isolated up front, and they wanted to bring the team closer and play more of a close-knit supporting role. And Zielinski was the player who they wanted to get, but that increased that supply line to him. So there's conflicting reports there. I know he didn't, and I'm not looking too much into these friendly games, but I know he didn't score in the last one, and I just sort of got, that little feeling that, is he gonna, is he not? But look, on his day, I think he's one of the world's most clinical strikers. Season on season, he's outperforming his XG. His a goal record is phenomenal. And you know what? Even if Poland aren't at the races, Lewandowski can affect. He transcends fixtures, he transcends teams, he transcends players. I think he could transcend anything that he possibly wanted to do on a football pitch. So, at 9 million is it 9 million as well for Lewandowski? When you look at some of those other premium attackers, he's at a price point which FanTeam may have knowingly stuck him in there at that price cleverly, just for you to think, well, how can you not have him in your team? It is ludicrous, and he's got to get chances, and if they keep giving him chances, he's going to score.
Yeah, no, I love it from FanTeam. They just kind of give us so many good conundrums across the pitch. Rodriguez and Alaba both being defenders, both almost out of position, taking lots of shots. It begs so many questions. But yeah, let's move it on to your forward line then. And I think this is a great reveal. This is controversial. This is everything that embodies you, Big Ben. And yeah, I mean, is this going to be your starting lineup for match day 1 as well?
I would say yes. Look, as much as I've championed Harry Kane, the cause and the highest point scorer in the game, the fact that he's expected to do that puts me off. So I've now, I cut my nose off to spite my face, as I had Rashford as my set and forget, as I, bombed out Leno, and I've now decided that Harry Kane will not be in any of my teams.
Oh my gosh.
And that, I understand, is completely mad and bonkers. But on one hand, you can look at it as, well, if you're going for the top prize and you need that differential, you need to get, that edge, that's something a little bit different, then maybe he's the player that I need to omit from his squad. Look, ultimately it's a win-win. If Harry Kane doesn't score, then great. Right, I'm ahead on a fantasy. If he does, look, England inherently are doing well, and we will progress hopefully deep into the tournament, and I'm not too bothered. So I'm with you with Lewandowski and Lukaku. Obviously the third pick we picked yesterday was Griezmann, so that's who I've went with in my first team, which again is a differential, and somebody I did really consider, but 14 tournament goals in his last 14 appearances, so that's why I went with Griezmann. And for this one, I went really bargain bucket, and I've went with Yilmaz.
Yeah,
4.5 million. I just think the Turkish squad generally are so underpriced at FanTeam, and maybe they took one look at his age and thinking, this bloke surely can't play football anymore. This Turkish team aren't going to be up to much. But for me, for a starting player in a team which, look, I expect Italy and Turkey to be 1 and 2. So I expect them to produce. Maybe there may be an argument that I may go with a 3-5-2 for the first game, but I don't know. You know what it is? Italy have to concede at some point, and it could be just that teams are feeling their ways in, and the veteran striker, lots of experience. 4.5 million. Do you know what? There are so many great strikers in this game, and so many that I could have went for, and it wasn't a case of budget. Nothing to do with budget, because I've got money to spend. and I could have easily cut elsewhere. I just fancied him just for a punt, just because why not? And you know what? I'm happy to hold my hands up if Harry Kane, smashes England, through to the finals and buries any chance of me winning any money. But that's just how I like to play the game sometimes, and I don't think I'll ever change.
No, I don't. I wouldn't want you to as well, Ben. That's why you're my on-screen husband, because of your unique foibles. I mean, I'm just going to call it YOLO Yilmaz. This is what we can put to it. The thing is, I wish there was a fourth striker spot, because I would get Yilmaz in as well. He's on penalties. He's in charge of a fairly good Turkish team. I don't hate it as a prospect. It's just the fact that it's taking up a spot. I mean, maybe in another team, I don't think I'd ever go out with Lukaku. I don't think I'd ever go without Harry Kane. But for me, Lewandowski, I wouldn't mind going without. And Yilmaz is a great option. Then I could, I don't know, play a 5 in midfield. I could have an even more big, bald midfield that just filled with talent. Because there was a few players in there that I thought, oh, you know what, I'm annoyed that I missed out. Or I could get Cancelo in defence, who I think has a great ability to score, assist, whatever. So yeah, I'm not going to hate on it too much, because that's the way that you play, and I just hope that it absolutely pays off and you'll be laughing with your YOLO Yilmaz kind of selection.
I mean, there's one thing for sure. Like you say, the difficulty with FanTeam is I wonder what the effective ownership of Lukaku and Harry Kane will be, because it'll be the 200% with the captain and vice captains in there, and then you're looking at Griezmann, Mbappe, Ronaldo, Eden Hazard. You can list, and then so Yilmaz will be on people's radar for the price, but I would say, if his ownership is more than 2%. I'd be very, very surprised, but just because in FanTeam there just isn't the space to carry a fourth striker, and so for that reason alone, I'm fingers crossed and hoping this punt pays off.
So let's move it to the final hurdle, and I'm still excited, even though it's a sub bench, but I think you'll be almost surprised that I've gone without Çakir from Turkey in terms of the defense, in terms of the goalkeeper. Even I've backed Backman. In terms of it, I think he's a 4.0. He's a fairly decent shout. I think he will play. If not, I'll keep an eye on the kind of team selections and everything. But I could put in a Dubravka or even a Harekedi. I don't need a second goalkeeper really, just in case Donnarumma's, I don't know, for whatever reason he might get injured or whatever, but I doubt very much that I'm going to ever play my second goalkeeper. So I thought I'll save that extra 0.5, and that's where I put it elsewhere in the team. It meant that I could get Spinazzola instead of somebody else, a 5 mil defender. Kamara, he's just going to play for Finland. He's a starter, so really no need to kind of explain that. But I did treat myself to Mr. Millet himself, and I'm really surprised that he's not in your team. That was one big one that I thought was somebody that would have been in your 11 or at least in your squad as well. I think Millet gives me a bit of kind of leeway in terms of maybe when Alaba plays a more difficult team, but everybody else I think is absolutely fine. But Celik as well, I'd be happy for him to start 2 games, and in terms of it, my players are all going to play a tough game at some point, and so it does give me a little bit of defensive kind of ability to swap in and out. But also, if Spinazzola doesn't play, he doesn't start the match, I'm happy with Millet against Finland. I think that he's a really good kind of player to go in there. And then Celik as well, apart from this Italy game, I can see them keeping clean sheets and potential attacking outputs. So yeah, thoughts on that bench, Ben? Does it need much discussion?
Well, I mean, good news for you with regards to Bachmann, because again, like you alluded to, there were question marks on who would start in goal, but Franco Foda has actually confirmed that Bachmann is certainly in line for that start in the first game, and he said he's going to be his number one. So you've got a starting goalkeeper as a backup there. Melee, yes, he was in the other team. And I did actually start him. I'm not 100% sure on whether he'll actually get nailed down in that Danish lineup. I don't think he's locked in as such. But I will flip-flop maybe between him and Mounier in the other team. So, yeah, look, Mele was there. I think he's had 6 starts since he stepped up to the senior squad. He scored 2 goals in that time and looks a great prospect. And I think 4.5 million, it's a bit of a no-brainer again with that Danish side I really like. Kamara, I don't really know what to say. I mean, I'm not expecting Finland to pull up any trees. I've certainly not heard any person anywhere on any podcast or on any feed that I've seen mention Kamara as a potential even enabler on the bench. I just thought there was maybe others who are in and around that same price point that could maybe, I don't know. I just don't. I've written off Finland if the truth be known.
He's not going to play, I don't think, ever, because I've got 2 others that would come ahead of him.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty with playing the 3 at the back. You've got a couple of defenders there in reserve, and Silic, yeah. We've talked about Turkey, and I think it looked like great assets at that price. So, yeah, mate, I think overall you've got a really good, solid team there. Should do really, really well on paper. I like it. Hope it brings home some bacon for you, my good friend.
Oh, I'd like some bacon as well. Delicious, delicious bacon. That's made me hungry. I guess with your subs, do I have to say, check here yourself, Vossi, you doing? Because of the people that are in there. Talk me through who is in your back line. Who's in your subs bench?
Yeah, I mean, Shakir is the backup keeper. I toyed really between him and Dubravka. I don't expect Slovakia to get any clean sheets, but there was save points on offer with Dubravka. But like I say, I've got money in the bank. Turkey should do all right, and he's there for needed. But like you, I've got Donnarumma between the sticks, and I really don't see that changing, barring injury and or suspension. We mentioned Olmo. He could come in to that team, maybe in the 3-5-2, the opening game. I'm not quite sure. That will depend. There's part of us that just wants to stick with Yilmaz, but he's a good pick. Alaba is again another player that I can easily bring in. We talked about it with your team, and that might be ahead of Goosen, certainly in that opening fixture. And Was, well, he's 6 million. I know he was expensive, but he's part of that Danish backline. I know he's locked in for a start, and yeah, I wasn't too bothered about budget at that point. And look, I like to have some cover from Denmark because I think they'll do really, really well.
Yeah, I think so as well. And that's why I've got a double up from the Danes as well. But yes, that is our teams then. As stated, do comment below. Tell us your thoughts and feelings. If you're shocked with some of our selections, or if you really like the differential nature of Mr. Dinnery, or maybe a bit too templatey from me, just let us know. It's always good to get your involvements. And as Ben stated there, we do read all the comments. We do try and reply as much as possible. And we just love getting involved with the community. But for now, I'm going to wish you the best of luck because we're only a few hours away from that kickoff. I wish every person that has entered our competition and won the absolute best of luck, and thanks for supporting the channel. And just for everybody that subscribed, commented, just got involved, thank you so much for your support as well. We put in a lot of hard work towards these videos, and we're going to continue putting in a lot of hard work through the Euros, but also through next season as well. And I think you're going to be really excited with a lot of the content that we'll be putting out. We've got some great guests coming up, some fantastic interviews in terms of the Euros, but also elsewhere as well. And yeah, this is the last kind of build-up, but definitely not the last video of Euro 2020. So yeah, please do get involved. Use the FanTeam link below, and we will see you very soon in our first video after the first games have gone through.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I'd just like to echo those thoughts. And thank you personally, live on air, for all of your hard work. I mean, really, you go above and beyond. Guys, you want to see what he produces. And in fact, you will see what he produces if you take a look at the website, and you will have a look at that humongous dossier that he prepared on every group, every team, and individuals. And that research and that data underpinned every podcast that we've shown in the build up to this tournament. So thanks once again for that, Jason. Lots of love, obviously, from the community, going really well. But that's the end of this initial phase of videos from us. It's certainly not the end. We will be back. We will be touching base, and we will be checking in on our teams. So really looking forward to that next one. But now it's time just to relax and chill. We've all done our research. We've done our due diligence. It's in the lap of the gods. So good luck, everyone. I hope you do really well. Maybe not as well as me and Jason, or not as well as me. But look, let's shoot for the stars, and even shoot for the moon. And even if we miss, we're still amongst those stars.
I love that phrase. That's one of your best ones, Ben. But yes, good luck to everybody, and a goodbye from us.
Yeah, bye.